And we're live. Welcome back to day 2 of the XR at Michigan 2021 Summit. Hi, Alan. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing, Jeremy? This is so exciting.
It was a great day yesterday. Lots of people from all over the world. Really good sessions from Jeremy Bailenson and our healthcare panel.
Healthcare panel just blew my mind. Amazing.
Isn't it cool stuff they're doing?
You know, I keep coming back to this, that we train pilots in virtual reality and simulators, but we don't train surgeons. I don't know. That and the being able to reduce opioid usage. This is just game-changing stuff.
Yeah, it's really awesome. They're a great group of folks. They're both in our School of Nursing and our medical school, as well as our dental school. So really awesome stuff. We've got a great day today as well. Coming up soon, we're going to hear from folks at Disney. We've got a digital studies and humanities panel from faculty at the University of Michigan. Then we'll go into a XR design and engineering panel, which would be really fascinating.
That one's amazing.
Be really good. And then we'll hear from Nick Klingensmith at Microsoft about some of their new platforms with Mesh and developer tools. And then we'll have our student showcase, and then we'll wrap it up.
The student showcase is probably this is where you see the new. This is where you see people pushing the limits of this technology. So that is where I'm super excited to see what the students of the University of Michigan have done for the actual school. And this, it's like students are creating tools to teach themselves. It's amazing.
It's cool. Yeah. And whoever, any of the folks that joined us yesterday in AltSpace, that whole world was built by 2 of our students, and they did an amazing job. So that was awesome.
Really did. It felt so much like the campus.
I know. It was great. Well, any takeaways from yesterday for you? Like what was the most interesting thing?
Sure. I think just the conversation with Jeremy Bailenson, I think really punctuated the power of this technology to really make a difference, and not just a little bit of a difference. We're talking orders of magnitude better performance in all aspects. There's a reason why some of the largest companies in the world have deployed VR for their training. I thought that was really impressive and interesting, and also the psychology behind it, why it works. Why is putting on a headset for a few minutes the equivalent to reading an entire book if you need to learn how to do something with your hands. Muscle memory. It's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, the research his lab's been doing is awesome. Just really amazing stuff. The nonverbal data they're collecting and what impact that has on identification and what you can learn and do.
I actually read that white paper a while back, and I mean the fact that they're able to collect 5 minutes of data on someone and identify them based on their gait, their head, their pose, their eyes. We have to be careful with this new world of data. I think you're going to see a whole area of ethics arise, and there's already the XR Safety Initiative with Kavya Perlman. There's a whole section dedicated to this in the XR Collaboration Guide. There's a whole section dedicated to ethics. We're the stewards of this new data collection, and we must keep it safe. And I know actually there's an article recently on Facebook on Facebook's plan to protect this data, because they do realize the power they hold, and they do take it seriously. So even though they make you sign in with that really is, as long as they're protecting your data and keeping it safe and stewarding it, I think it's it is what it is. So I think it's great that we're having these conversations early on in this technology. And we've been working with Kavya and XRSI and helping develop some of those guidelines from the higher ed perspective, and it's just, we're happy to be a part of that, and happy that they're taking that and bringing it. And hopefully we'll start to make some influence and impact on legislation. We can hope. We'll see. I just saw that Kavya's in the
great.
audience. Awesome.
Well,
great.
Well, I am ready to hear this next panel, this next discussion with Professor Dr. Michael Niebling here from the University of Michigan, and he'll be talking with Mark Minay, the Director of Technology, the Technology Innovation Group at Walt Disney Studios. And I think everyone will be in for quite a treat here. They're doing some really awesome stuff. So welcome, Michael. Welcome, Mark. Thank you. We look forward to your conversation.
Looking forward to it, guys. Take it from here.
All right. Take care.
Thank you both. Hello, I'm Michael, and I'm here with Mark Minay. Hello, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thank you.
Cool, that's excellent. So, Mark, we are here on the XR Summit. It is my pleasure to host this conversation with you. Obviously, you are somebody I really look up to, very well known in the research community, but also very established in industry. Disney being one of the, if not the main content provider, and always pushing the forefront of these AR, VR technologies. I think you will take us on a little journey today. I'm looking forward. The first part of our conversation will be a presentation from you, and then we can anchor our discussion in that. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, it's a great pleasure to be back here, and at least to be virtually back in Ann Arbor. So it's not the same, waiting for breakfast outside my house instead of outside of Zingerman's Deli. But it's still a great pleasure to be here. So I got a ton of exciting things to tell you about. I don't normally usually it's a bad sign when I'm changing my slides, right before the presentation. But I actually last minute, I'm going to try a little bit of experiment. I've got a video that I've worked on that I'm going to show you a couple clips of that are related, because I was going to tell you a little bit about my background. But I think this is a better summary of that. So here, let's jump into the video. Great, thank you.
For a quarter century, the Gartner Hype Cycle for Emerging Technologies has been an illuminating barometer of society's changing attitudes and expectations towards new and emerging technologies. For half a year, I've been stuck inside my house due to the coronavirus. So to keep myself busy, I decided to explore different ways to visualize the information presented in the Gartner Hype Cycle. This video is the result of that work. The hype cycle is based upon the hypothesis that most technological innovation goes through a period of over-enthusiasm, which is labeled the peak of inflated expectations, followed by a period of disappointment, known as the trough of disillusionment. The hype cycle is initiated by what Gartner calls an innovation trigger, a breakthrough, public demonstration, or other event that generates press, industry, and investor interest in a technological innovation. The rise and fall in expectations for a technology reflects the interplay between the speed of imagination and the speed of engineering and business development. When driven by imagination and unfettered by the limits of reality, expectations can rise rapidly. Correspondingly, they can fall just as easily when reality sets in and overinflated expectations are left unmet. If a technology survives the trough of disillusionment, it can crystallize its role and relevance on the slope of enlightenment and ultimately secure its success or failure on the plateau of productivity. Gartner offers the hype cycle as a tool to help organizations determine the best time to adopt or abandon the technology by giving them a better understanding of its current state of development and a sense for the landscape of hype and reality that surround that technology. Prognostication, however, is notoriously hard, and it leaves room for debate as to its ultimate value. Less debatable is the notion that the Gartner hype cycle's true value may actually lie in looking back rather than looking forward. It's a fascinating record of the attitudes, trends, and changing technological landscape of the past 25 years. Like fossils trapped in sedimentary rock, the hype cycle captures the impact of global events, the rise and fall of world financial markets, and game-changing technological breakthroughs on the technological zeitgeist. Furthermore, the existence of 25 years of hype cycle data unlocks the opportunity to consolidate the data and to extract insights, identify long-term trends, and learn valuable lessons by considering the data in aggregate and examining it from new perspectives. Additional insight can be gained by exploring the progress of a specific technology, in this case virtual reality, through the hype cycle in more detail. This section is the most personal for me, as it reflects the 30 years of my life that I spent living the hype cycle, working at the forefront of VR technology. VR can trace its origins back almost 60 years to Morton Hellick's experiments in cinematic immersion using his Sensorama platform, and Ivan Sutherland's seminal work at MIT on the ultimate display. Most would agree that the innovation trigger for virtual reality would likely include Jaron Lanier, dreadlock pioneer and personality who coined the term virtual reality in the late 80s. For me personally, the innovation trigger was reading a 1988 NASA Tech Briefs article about VR research by Scott Fisher and others at NASA Ames Research Center. This led to graduate study into VR at the University of North Carolina and eventually a job at Disney's VR studio. VR reached the peak of inflated expectations in the early 90s as people began to realize that the state-of-the-art VR experiences fell far short of what was depicted in the movies and popular fiction. Soon thereafter, VR began its plunge towards the trough of disillusionment, frankly leaving everyone feeling slightly nauseous. It was the perseverance and dedicated research in industry and academia that helped keep VR alive during its passage through the trough. I was at the crossing of the Trough and the Ditch, Walt Disney Imagineering's digital immersive showroom, doing immersive previews for theme park design. In 2014, VR got a much-needed shot in the arm and a ticket out of the trough in the form of a second mini peak of hype when Facebook bought Oculus for $2 billion. Today, VR continues its steady climb up the slope of enlightenment as people begin to identify more real-world applications of virtual world technology in entertainment, film production, medicine, and training. The once crude VR devices are now approaching a level of quality and performance that approaches the limit of human perception. While VR's ultimate fate is still uncertain, it's been an exciting ride.
There you go. That's my experiment. I hope it was.
It was very effective. It encoded, obviously, these technology trends, but also a little bit of your personal story. So thanks for sharing it with us, Mark.
And so now I'm going to go and try to give a quick overview, though I got a lot of slides, so it may take a while, is talking about all the things that Disney's working on. And when you look at it in a sum total like this, it's pretty amazing, all the things that we've been working on for many, many years. So in 1992, Walt Disney Imagineering formed a new group called the VR Studio. And our charter was to explore the potential of VR technology for theme park attractions. And in those days, our work involved these, super high-grade military display systems and million-dollar computers. Our first experiments were based on the movie Rocketeer, which we explored the idea of using VR technology to make people feel as though they were flying. And it was very successful, though the Rocketeer movie was less than successful. So we actually pivoted at that point and started working on the movie Aladdin. And that led to an experimental attraction at Epcot called the Walt Disney Imagineering Labs, where we demonstrated the very first VR-based ride on the movie that was based on the movie Aladdin. And then we installed that at what was called Disneyland Starcade, where we took a step to try to make that more of a turnkey system. And that ultimately led to what was called Disney Quest, an experience that combined the magic of Disney with fun and interactive immersive technologies, such as VR and real-time 3D graphics. The VR studio that I worked in, we created 3 of Disney Quest's premier attractions: Aladdin's Magic Carpet Ride, Hercules' Adventure in the Underworld, and the Pirates of the Caribbean Battle for Buccaneer Gold, which was a real amazing piece of technology. Sadly, the Disney Quest in Florida, the first attraction I worked on as an Imagineer, was shut down a couple of years ago, though it was time. It had the last remaining place where we were using a whole bunch of Silicon Graphic infinite reality machines. But we shut it down to make room for an NBA experience, which quite poetically was the first attraction that my son worked on as an Imagineer. And so he was working very hard to wipe out his dad's legacy at Imagineering. And so then from the beginning, Walt's goal was to immerse his guests in the world of Disney storytelling. And so now I'd like to talk a little bit about physical VR, which is the term I'm using here to describe the physical theme park environments with a virtual component. So it's another R to add to our XR mix. And these are attractions that Disney's been creating for almost 60 years now. The granddaddy of these experiences is Star Wars, an attraction in which we misused a flight simulator to transport our guests into the world of Star Wars. And the original system relied on a complex film loop projection system, which after 20 long years, we finally switched to an all-digital version. And the great advantage of using a digital system is that it allowed for more frequent content updates. As new movies came out, we could update the content, and for branching narratives. And so on the cruise line, we have what we call magic portholes, which are available in the interstate rooms of the cruise ships. And the porthole theme display, it provides a live camera feed of outside the ship. So passengers can choose between viewing, fore or aft view or port and starboard camera views. And then we periodically augment these with our favorite Disney character or some other Disney magic, such as the Up House floating by. And so this is definitely a case of making lemons in the lemonade, and it makes the interstate rooms much more popular. They're actually quite desirable now.
Definitely want to go on a cruise now.
I know, me too. And then, of course, there's the Smuggler's Run, which is part of the new Galaxy's Edge installation in Florida and California. And it makes everyone's dream of flying the Millennium Falcon come true. And that one is like Star Wars, but it kind of goes to 11. And it is all based on real-time cinematic environments. So it enables interactive, cooperative gameplay, where each player has a different role. So guests can choose between being a pilot or a gunner or an engineer. And then opening just a a few short months before COVID-19 shut everything down, is the Rise of the Resistance, which is probably the most amazing attraction ever built by Imagineering. Pretty much every trick ever invented by Imagineering is in one ride. Advanced animatronics, free-ranging trackless vehicles, Pepper's Ghost, projection mapping, moving eye point media, the whole 9 yards. This one I said definitely goes to 11 as well. Actually, this one goes to 12.
Pretty cool.
And so it's one, I think it's definitely my favorite ride. Though they actually tell us never to say what our favorite ride is, because it's like
Yeah, okay.
children, you're not supposed to have a favorite child, but everyone knows we do, and so this is definitely mine.
Right, it's good to know.
And then also recently opened is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and its ride represents one of the most extensive uses of projection-based augmented reality in our parks. And I'm really excited to give this one a go. And this one, you kind of, the dynamic Disney Powers couple taking a leisurely drive in their sporty little roadster, and then engineer Goofy is on a train following merrily along, and then something goes, in proud Disney tradition, something goes horribly awry. And you get to go among all these amazing environments that are projection mapped and see all this kind of cartoon physics and all exciting stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of tooling, XR has become a powerful tool in the creation of our experiences as well. So something I'm very proud of is the Disney's Digital Immersive Showroom, and it's a high-resolution VR cave environment that we use for pre-visualization of Disney theme park rides and attractions. It's basically a 5-sided cave. The dish features 4K stereoscopic projection, head tracking, and a wide field of view for immersive viewing of 3D models and animations of our rides and attractions. The dish is one of the highest resolution and most immersive VR experiences of its day, and its primary limitation is the fact that despite its very large size, it's actually a single user environment.
Only rendering one perspective, right?
Yeah. But yeah, and there I am pointing at things, is what we do a lot as a VR executive. The
You
dish,
point at things? Okay.
yeah. Well, you pose for pictures where you're pointing at things, yes.
Okay.
The dish led directly to the development of Imagineering's virtual attractions, which leverages advanced game engine technology and immersive head-mounted display technology. And this is, but we use this not as an experience, but as a visualization technique.
Mm-hmm.
And so here you can see the side-by-side of the Rise of the Resistance ride that I showed earlier with the virtual attraction on the left. And but it's much more than a simulation. It's actually a powerful digital twin that we use to plan out attraction layout, vehicle movement, animatronics programming, fixed and moving eye point media, special effects, and lighting triggers and control. It's it's pretty amazing, and that's come a long way. And it's also taking advantage of, like I said, the lower priced consumer head-mounted displays that make this much more affordable and easily to integrate among many teams within Imagineering.
Right, affordability is a very different concept when you speak of the scale that Disney is thinking about as opposed to the consumer. But you are pointing out that obviously the fact that we can have these VR headsets and they are relatively affordable,
yep.
actually really makes it possible to port some of these experiences into people's homes.
Yep. I mean, the cost of an Oculus Quest versus a high-end Christie projector is several orders of magnitude, and it makes it much more affordable, not just for internal use, but also we can start considering things for external use and in-home use.
Sure.
So in the next section, I'd like to present some examples of some of the marketing and consumer experiences we've been developing. Coco VR was an experiment in immersive VR storytelling, and this was developed by the Studio Lab, which is a sibling organization to my group. And it combines sort of the richness of the Pixar cinematic environments along with the expressiveness of Pixar animation, but all in an interactive multiplayer environment where one can, customize your avatar. You can tour a virtual art gallery. You get behind the scenes information as told by Pixar artists. And then you can even pop your own head off and take a bow after the performance.
Cool.
The Toy Story 4 AR experience was released as part of the Regal app for the launch of the Toy Story 4 and was leveraged as an advanced pipeline that will allow us to take and import Pixar cinematic assets and animations, but preserve the detail and subtlety of animation for playback in a mobile device. The goal was to be as faithful to the original Pixar intent as possible, and even had a little bunny mode button, which would cause the toys to drop to the ground if any humans came into view.
Cool.
Make a Friend, which we recently launched on the Play tab of the Disney Movie Insider app, allows one to kind of make a friend, just like Bonnie creates the character Forky in Toy Story 4. And so we really wanted to have a rich set of components to choose from. I mean, you have to understand what Forky is about to understand this, but it's all about, you can choose different objects like a paintbrush or a cup or bottles, and then you can, we wanted to have kind of truth in materials so the parts would behave in a physically realistic-based manner. And then we really wanted that emotional connection with the character. And so you can see here, very, very endearing the way he follows you around and looks at you. And then we can take advantage of some of the advanced ARKit features, such as facial tracking or body tracking, so that you can either puppeteer the face of your friend that you've created, or else you can bring a partner into view. And then you can see on the right here, we got Don, who's doing a little dance, and then the friend that you created will do all the same things. And then now we get to what for me is the most exciting and ultimately the most important to the company, is the exploration of XR as a storytelling medium. And so this is a great piece called Cycles, which was created by a really talented team at Animation Studios, and was led by director Jeff Gibson. And in it, you're immersed in a story. You're kind of a silent observer in someone's home, and you witness the family's series of very special and precious moments throughout the years, from when the young couple first buys the house and they kind of spontaneously jump into the pool, fully clothed, to the same couple struggling on sleepless nights with a crying baby. It's all very relatable and life affirming, and it does justice to the Disney Animation's legacy of amazing storytelling. Myth, which is also from director Jeff Gibson, who's sort of Animation Studios' VR director, is a kind of origin story about the frozen land of Arendelle. And so you can imagine it's it's kind of like a bedtime story that people in Arendelle would tell their children about the myth of the four elemental characters: wind, fire, water, and earth, that appear in Frozen 2. Kane Arena, which is Flesh or Sand, is created all by ILM's amazing and talented XLab division. And it's written and directed by Alejandro Iñárritu, the award-winning director of Birdman and Revenant. And so it's really amazing that, some of these big-name Hollywood directors are really getting into the whole VR scene and trying to tell very compelling and very, some cases, overwhelming stories. So like this one, Kane Arena breaks into tells the harsh life of an immigrant, allows you to participate to walk in the footsteps of an immigrant, and includes some very intense and sometimes overwhelming visuals. A lot of people come out of this experience crying, which is sort of the metric by which we judge all VR now, is whether it can make you cry.
And empathy, I guess, in some sense. So, and Disney is a major facilitator, like.
Yep. Cool. It's all about the story, and story is all the very important components of what we're building. Anything else you want to say?
Just have a garbage truck in the background, and I wanted to avoid that you would have to listen to it. So
okay.
I'll mute myself for a sec.
So Vader Immortal is a 3-part VR Star Wars series in which one learns a significant part of the Darth Vader's backstory. The great thing about Vader Immortal is that it's actually considered Star Wars canon.
You were a means to an end.
Vader Immortals take place in a largely unexplored time period between Revenge of the Sith and Rogue One.
Only you can face Vader.
We need an army for that.
You have an army.
for one final lesson.
Hard to beat Darth Vader and a lightsaber.
It is interesting that you put it in the storytelling part because it continues to tell some of the stories you didn't tell in the movies. Is that why you associated with the storytelling part of your presentation?
It's really part of XLab's drive towards what they're calling story living versus storytelling. You're the hero of your own adventure.
I like that.
We might end up at the same destination, but it's how we get there is really the important part. And because
we have control, we have agency, we can live part of the story. I like that. That's cool.
That's right. And so because it's so immersive and there's such a sense of presence, then you start kind of significantly really having a great sense of attachment, and the stories mean much more to you because you are living through them instead of just passively experiencing them.
So Mark, I get a lot of excitement through the audience already. A lot of the questions that I can see streaming in have to do with whether this is available and how things can be accessed. For example, the Make a Friend. I thought these apps are released on the App Store. I've played Vader Immortal is on the Quest, for example.
Yep. Vader Immortal and Tales from the Galaxy Edge are both available on the Quest 2. And Make a Friend is actually available on Disney Movies Insider app, which unfortunately is right now only available in North America. So international guests or not.
So it's not released through an app store like an iOS app. It is actually through
No. It's a little bit overwhelming if we had to release an app for every single small marketing experience that we developed.
Sure.
And that's why Disney Movies Insider is actually a Disney fan kind of support network, and it's all about. It used to be Disney Movies Rewards.
But just to communicate, they're getting very positive vibes and excitement from the audience. Looking at the chat while I'm also listening to your fantastic presentation. So let's get back to your presentation, Mark.
A couple more slides here. So then there's location-based VR, and here we finally returned back to where it all started for me was the world of location-based entertainment. And then there's Avengers Damage Control. It's a hyper-reality-based experience that we built with the Void. Takes advantage of advanced hand tracking and really allows your guests to fight alongside their favorite heroes and fulfill the fantasy of being an Avenger.
Has been waiting, rebuilding its strength and secret.
And so we had like Benedict Cumberbatch come in and recreate his Doctor Strange character. You see, there's a whole lot of stuff going on with hand tracking here.
Are you guys the new recruits?
You fail to see the big picture. But no turning back now.
Where your backup?
Lizard glow circled right into the middle of our date.
Scott, popcorn on the couch and reruns of Golden Girls is not a date. Stop calling it a date. Heads up, everybody. More incoming!
Make good choices!
Yeah, I remember actually trying that out while we were visiting you. Jeremy and I actually did that Void experience. It's collaborative. It is actually quite cool.
Yep. But sadly, the Void is a victim of the pandemic. And is not with us anymore. But we are certainly very proud of what we did with them and the quality of things like the damage control. And
it was one of the most immersive, or you call it hyper reality, I think, experiences I've had. So I thank you for that experience, actually.
Thanks. And then finish up just with a couple little tidbits of how we're using XR for the production process. One of the things that I started working on when I first got there was the to switch over to the studios is the Lion King VPS system. And in Lion King, the creative team set out to take advantage of the revolution in consumer grade virtual reality technology. And so coupled with game engine technology, they advanced the art of virtual production and produced visual effects and animation combined with traditional physical production approach. So there you can see Caleb Deschanel, the cinematographer from the movie, and Jon Favreau and Rob Legato, all kind of immersed in headsets, and they're doing a lot of digital scouting and figuring out where they're going to place the camera. Apparently, Jon Favreau liked to scale himself up, his virtual self up really large, and just kind of look at the overall scene and just kind of soak it all in. But then they combined it with a lot of sort of virtualized, very traditional production equipment. So you see there's Caleb was driving the dolly, and so they're using that to do a dolly cam kind of move, and they would actually even fly a drone around to simulate a drone shot. And then Jon Favreau continued to push the boundaries of filmmaking technology, and he's been doing this for years. And his new Disney Plus Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, is the latest example of the director using and seeing an opportunity to redefine what's possible. And so he and the Lucasfilm have established what they're calling stagecraft technology, which essentially allows, it's basically the world's largest cave. It's gigantic, and it's an amazing immersive environment. But they use that as a virtual backdrop for all of the, all of the production of The Mandalorian. And so, they combine physical sets in the foreground and on the floor with the virtual sets, where they can get the real subtle lighting cues that they want to get on the character. And especially, there's a lot of stuff, shiny metal. And so they can really get great, perfect reflections off of that, and then use that as a virtual backdrop. And then they can use the VR, continue to use VR technology to scout and collaborate in the production of this environment. So it's a real pretty amazing.
It is.
And it's really, it's the world's largest cave. It's pretty amazing.
It is based on the same principles you shared with us earlier.
Yep.
The dish was thanks, Mark. So this was a quarter. So, thank you very much, Mark. So there is a lot of enthusiasm in the audience. I always enjoy bringing you in. You've collaborated with us, visited my courses, inspired my students. You're very accessible, despite really being a veteran in the space. You could decide not to talk to us, but Disney actually is a friend to the University of Michigan, especially the School of Information. Thank you for that. So listening to you, Mark, I see so many things that you packed in that presentation. It was your personal journey. It was the hype cycle. It was the interpretation of the hype cycle. It was enthusiastic. It was you talked about some of the challenges you have when you deploy things at scale, but overall rendered a very positive, forward-trending picture. It really confirmed what I said initially. Disney is at the forefront of these technologies. In many ways, thanks to you. I know there are many other things you are working on at the moment that you cannot share, but for somebody being in such a space that is so competitive, to be able to share so much with us today, I think this is pretty amazing. And thank you for that, Mark.
Oh, you're most welcome. My pleasure. It's really pretty exciting, right now, the opportunity we have at the Disney company.
Yeah, and you stuck with them. You've been there for many years. You certainly now have a lot of influence and impact on how Disney is shaped, especially in the immersive space. It is interesting. So the one thing that was going through my mind is, part of your story was how these theme parks, they now come to our homes. You actually create them around the users. In some of, so that creates new challenges. You also have challenges of actually doing more advanced AR, VR things in the theme parks. The people come to you with this expectation of seeing the latest things. At the same time, when you showed us the Star Wars experience, for example, you pointed out all the things, all the tricks that were implemented, but they're still hidden. And so it's so fascinating. It has this magic still.
It's pretty amazing how there's a convergence happening between all the different business units within Disney. And we can see that, in sort of how we've reorganized ourselves, really into people who are kind of, I'd say atoms, bits, and content is the way I like to say it, the ABCs of Disney. Sort of like there are people who are kind of interested in building the physical parts of what we do and make and sell. And then there's people who are focused on the distribution of the digital content, the bits. And then there is also the people that are very much interested in actual storytelling and the content itself. And that's really, the studios where I come from are really the kind of
I could also observe this evolution of what it means to be a producer, a cinematographer, even be a designer. It's like you're designing for and within these technologies. So immersive authoring, which has been a research topic for years, is really, it seems to be part of the daily job there, at least the way you push the technology, I think is very fascinating.
Yeah, like, Caleb Deschanel, the cinematographer for The Lion King, I mean, it's pretty amazing because he had a 50-year career of, doing, being a director of photography in a normal way. And suddenly now he's thrust into this VR world. And he actually, he adapted to it amazingly well. He certainly had things that he thought could be improved. Certainly the quality of the real-time lighting wasn't quite as refined as he'd like to have, because he'd really, because when you're trying to work out a shot, you really just want to work out all these subtle details of the interplay of light onto the objects in the scene. And so they would have modes where they could give him near real-time kind of pre-visualizations of how that would look.
Yeah.
Certainly the more as graphic engines and game engines and graphics cards and everything continue to improve, it's just going to get better and better.
Well, and it challenges everything. I feel like, this is somebody who really is like, I've done this for 50 years. Let's try something new. I think that's cool. At the same time, I would imagine that there is, Disney has many years of experiences of creating, producing movies. There are certain workflows. But then when you want to get this previs almost up to a level where the actor can feel like it's the final experience, I feel like it must change some of the workflows. It must push everybody quite a bit, and so it is fascinating.
Well, that's certainly what the Stagecraft 2 system at ILM is really. They're pushing they're at the forefront of that push into the new technology. And
you're inventing new workflows with that as well, which I think, and that it is successful. We can see Disney Plus has been one of the best things I think you guys have done from at least a commercial perspective. But I wanted to thank you for the weekly Friday evening Mandalorian treat after teaching my AR/VR courses in the mornings and afternoons. So so it's cool. All right, so I was reading through some of the questions, Mark. Here's one that I think you'll be very excited about. There are lots of thoughtful questions as well. I'll pick one from further down the list, and I want you to think about this a little bit. Hi, Dr. Mine. Gila Giovanni is asking this. Hi, Dr. Mine. From a technology perspective, how close do you think we are to something similar to Star Trek's version of the holodeck? Coming back to your dish and what you told us about Stagecraft, how close are we? What do you think?
I mean, the biggest thing was really for us was just the multi-person aspects, because for us it's all about the detailed spatial relationships and making sure that you get a good clean perspective of that. And so right now, the fact that the dish as it was built was only a single user environment was a challenge. Now there are certainly projectors now that can go much higher speeds and can so you can have multiple people's views multiplex, but then you're only talking about 4 or 5 people in the space. But then it's also a project environment, and so there are some limitations there. But really, I think we're pretty close to having in terms of visuals, we're having very good representations that are very close to something you get in the holodeck. Now the whole let's materialize matter and all that kind of stuff, that we got a ways to go on. But
what, you don't have a food replicator? Come on.
No, sadly not yet.
Tea, Earl Grey, hot. Yeah, which is funny, right? If they have advanced technology, why do they use this really not advanced voice input on the Star Trek? So this is, I agree. So the blending the physical and the virtual is still one of the main challenges. I mean, I think that was one of the parts of the Void experience that I really liked, because you were able to map the virtual world very closely to a controlled physical environment. And there were other aspects to the Void that I was fascinated by, which was, it was an experience design at scale, because you had multiple groups of people within this kind of like little labyrinth. And so you could, it was interesting how you reuse the space. And that's just somebody, so when I talked to you, I can see as somebody who really, really understands the technology very well and knows how to put them to good use cases, especially in the entertainment area. And I think Disney really excels there. I want to change a little bit over to one of the questions that I also liked a lot, and I missed it because new questions came in. But here's one from Joey Desiderio. He's asking you, do you engage with healthcare organizations exploring VR for patient experiences, applications for kids in long-term care, other use cases? And if it's not in your role, maybe we can rephrase this question a little bit, like, what are some other that you think very promising application areas where AR and VR could be used for good?
Well, it wasn't specifically just AR and VR, but there was this Team of Heroes initiative that Bob Iger started, where he pledged $100 million to the support of children's hospitals and really trying to help the experience of children within the hospitals.
Is it the windows that you're referring to?
Yeah, and so that was like one of the things we did. My group we built this thing called the Magic Window, which is a LG flat panel displays, these amazing wallpaper displays that you could just paste up on a wall, and then you could build a whole window frame around it. And then we built, magical views into worlds, Disney worlds, and so you could go visit the world of, Pixar, worlds of Pixar or Disney Nature or any one of a number of places. And so we could put those, very easily into waiting rooms or treatment rooms for the children.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also did a whole bunch of other stuff, which included some head-mount display experiences. And then a lot of it's just very traditional things where you're painting seek and find murals and things like that, very tangible and stuff. But it was a very important aspect, and I was really proud to be part of that and helping out into the making these poor kids' lives much better.
It is nice. It is essentially a distraction, but it is a very powerful way to communicate and have a window. You have these familiar characters appear. I think when you introduced me to the idea, I was fascinated by the project. Glad we were able to feature it. I also think, Mark, so for the summit specifically, and one of the main reasons we interact a lot with you guys at Disney is obviously you're at the forefront of the technologies. Mm-hmm. But on the education side, and I know you're very keen, you've been a supporter of my class, and we had little design projects for the students together. I think the most successful implementation we did just before the pandemic was when you came over and were consulting on a design jam. So the students were in the early stage and they could ask you questions, and they engaged with you designing this ultimate personal assistant and what should go in it and whatnot. And when you work on a new project with these exciting technologies, the scoping, the way you frame it is always one of the main challenges for the students. Obviously, in addition to being creative and coming up with good ideas, there's also this feasibility question, which I think you guys at Disney, feasibility, everything is possible. It's a matter of money, it seems, and maybe time, except for the physical. So here's my question.
Keyword quotations is kind of undo the impossible, right?
It is true. So how do you think about the role that XR can play in education? And just it's a very complex topic we've started to navigate in some extent with you. You've seen many things over the years. How do you think about the role of XR in education?
There's so many of the kind of obvious ways that people have thought about and have started to explore, just in terms of being able to transport people to places that they've never been before. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the ultimate personal assistant stuff that I was talking about with your class, it was all about helping us overcome our limitations. Because you can only pay attention to so many things, you can only be aware of so many things, you can only keep track of so many things, and so you can use a personal assistant. Having a personal assistant that smartly would keep track of all the things that you're trying to, it's all about that getting things done mindset where you try to get stuff out of your head, so they stop rattling around and stop distracting you, and into a manageable and repeatable and controllable space. And so I think there's a lot that we could do with that.
And one of the main design constraints you put on the students is the goal is not to replace us. The goal is to enhance, amplify enhance humans with these technologies. And yes, I agree with you. Yesterday we visited a virtual copy of the Diag in ArtSpace, which I think was very well done. It was very fascinating. It was modeled after the real world. It felt like pretty close. It was at the same time cartoony, so it was like not trying to be exactly the space. The Star Wars experience is, many people imagine these things, saw it in the movies, and then you port it to people's places on current VR technologies. So it is an exciting journey that you guys are on. I'm wondering whether I can pick one last one. We had some technical questions about the LED walls and the virtual production system, which I know a smaller portion of the audience will be very interested in. Mm-hmm. And Mark is actually the person to talk to about this. I pick one from Talal Al-Othman, who is also here at the University of Michigan. In fact, you met Talal.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like the work you folks have done includes both location-based XR experiences and experiences deployed to users directly. And now the part of the question, I'll leave that up to you how you answer this one and interpret it. Do you see Disney's future work including both or swaying one way or the other?
I mean, I don't see any reason why we should restrict ourselves to just one or the other. I mean, there's so many exciting opportunities in all aspects. And so, and a lot of it is sort of the split between VR and AR. Because we have such great physical spaces, it makes sense for us to really focus on the AR stuff because we have the best reality to augment anyone. And then we've got so much, but we've got so many stories that we want to tell. And so the virtual reality has a lot of advantages there. And so we'd like to do stuff there. You don't have to come to a place because there's so many people who can't make it to our parks. Mm-hmm. And so, why would we not want to also be able to tell stories to these people as well?
That's exactly right. I like how you think about it. It is understanding these technologies and using them to their advantages. Not, some of the marketing hype you see is like one will go away, the other one will be better. Mixed reality is a new thing. I've been quite annoyed by some of these hypes and pushes that cause more confusion than they add to clarity. Yep. I think having this overview is just fascinating, the way you think through this space. It is very difficult for people starting in this space. I mean, compared to your experiences, mine is limited. I've been doing this for 5 years, and I feel like I get it now.
Yeah,
it is evolving. So thank you, Mark. I'm just scrolling through a last set of questions. I'm also wondering whether you feel like you want to add anything else to what you've said. We have 2 more minutes. I'm just wondering whether you felt like something came too short or you wanted to raise another aspect.
No, I'm feeling pretty good. I think
it's been very comprehensive. In my mind, the way what my takeaway from this is obviously Disney's at the forefront. I'm convinced. I was convinced before. I'm convinced again. You've shown us so many visual examples. We talked about a little bit how work at Disney actually changes a little bit. The design processes, the way you use these technologies. There's a transformation going on. Disney as a company reshaped multiple times over the last few years. It's fascinating.
Pretty exciting to see it all put together like this too, even for myself. And this is all the stuff I could tell you about. There's lots of stuff I can't tell you about that are.
I know. But we should feel good about the things we were able to see. I tell you, the audience was excited. There were even more questions than the ones that I picked from the Q&A. So thank you very much, Mark. And I wish we could applaud you. I get my bunny as well. We're clapping for you. Thanks very much, Mark.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All right. So this was Mark Mine. I think of him as a veteran in this space. He is a friend. He's an inspiration. He works in a company that I think influences a lot of at least the content we consume. And they realize this responsibility. I think well, but with anything, there are some issues about some of it as well. And I think Mark was able to share his experience with us, which was amazing. So it's my pleasure now to lead over to the next panel. The next panel will be on digital studies and humanities. It will be, at least to me, lots of familiar faces here from the University of Michigan. I'm excited that we will have this panel. We might have a short break in between. Is my friend Jeremy, are you here to support me on stage so that we can nicely lead over to the next panel, or should I just call a quick break? We will be right back, so thank you very much, and that's it.